that would tell you coin clipping is justified because it benefits us. And if you let it, it can benefit you too. That's what they will tell you. Done with current events, talking points. Go on to some thoughts here recently. Start where I ended up last week. The new S word no longer refers to feces, now it refers to socialism. And the new C word no longer refers to genitalia, but to capitalism, depending on which side you're on. And you may thusly define these terms in your own mind, in our own minds. We define these terms. Some people hate capitalism because they blame they don't know, they're ignorant. They blame capitalism for what's happened in America, which is anti-capitalism. That's what crony capitalism is. It's just like I talk about framing somebody up. You could frame up somebody of a faith, or you could frame up somebody of a philosophy. A religion is an economic philosophy, a belief. Okay, it's a system, it's a predicate. It's something that, a credo, okay? If you do this, it's like math, then you're going to get this result. It's just like a science, too, is involved in this thing. So there's no ifs, ands, or buts. There's no real arguing what true capitalism is, just like no ifs, ands, or buts in arguing what a true Jew is. They're a good, decent, upright human being. And a true capitalist is the same. And they're an egalitarian. They believe in freedom and prosperity across the board. And anybody that calls himself a capitalist but does something other than bring that to you in what they call capitalism is a liar. Do you understand? They're just doing it under the pretext of that. The pretense. A guise, a beard, a lie, okay, a frame-up, a calling card, whatever you want. It's fraudulent. It's not real. It's not true. They're not capitalists. And socialists need to be called out too. And they are being called out regularly, and they should be. Are you an egalitarian? You know? How do you believe? Do you know anything about sound economic policies? Do you know anything about this so-called socialism and the results in the former Soviet Union and in China and in Venezuela and other areas? You see the results. The rich leave Dodge. If you really force them to pay it, they can't just hire an attorney to find a loophole. They leave Dodge. So what do you get? You know, it just becomes dog eat dog. You just go, well, let's go after the middle class. And then when there's no more middle class, what do you got? You're devouring your own. That's what happens. It falls apart because it's based on theft. Do you understand? And you can't do that. The Robin Hood theory sounds good in theory. It sounds virtuous, but it's wrong. It's immoral. You can't steal. And you can't force people. You can't use the state, the authority of the state, to go out there and that's what they want to do. That's bad socialism, man. And so just like bad capitalism, it's all bad, man. It's all just created to divide us, man. Have us at each other's throats, distracted, disempowered, so that your focus is off them instead of you unifying, going after the real culprits. These evil money masters of misery. I keep talking about the same people over and over and over. You know who I'm talking about here. We all do. You know, I have a lot of old stuff. I got a 41-year-old van, 1977 GMC van. I love it. I love old stuff. You know, I am old stuff. And, you know, if more of us had that mentality, we wouldn't have this planned obsolescence society so much where people just buy stuff and they discard it, throw it away. I want the newest thing. You know, what's wrong with stuff with character, you know? It occurred to me recently that I feel somehow self-violated wherever I cite by name a person I believe to be an evildoer. It makes me want to either stop it completely or at least post a disclaimer. Reading, just because I identified by name doesn't mean I condemn them. That's not my job. That job falls to law enforcement or God, but not to me. When we are knowledgeable and honest, we will know who the evildoers are. Yeah, I don't like naming names, but I'm telling you, you got to call. You got to have. I have a duty to expose the fruitless deeds of darkness, to call a spade a spade. And if the fruits of these evildoers are evidently rotten, then it's okay to name an evildoer by name. And all I'm telling them is stop being evil. I'm not condemning them. I'm saying jump ship, stop being evil. I don't know if you've committed an unpardonable, unforgivable sin or not. That's not my job. That's God's job. Anyone who thinks believers, so often the poor, must be and are in fact somehow bad, are devilishly wrong. In fact, quite the opposite is true. Those that feed the beast, this current monetary system, are the most culpable. So all these people that want to exalt themselves and want to act like, oh, I'm a big taxpayer. Well, you're feeding the beast the most. You're what's making the beast fat, man. You go along with this thing and say, I understand why property taxes are high. I'm the one supporting all these governmental agencies. So it's all you non-taxpayers that are at fault. They want to put the blame on who doesn't deserve it. But I can't stand it. Those that feed the beast, this current monetary system, are the most culpable. Understand that by consenting to pay an ever-growing cost of living, surviving, existing tax, whether to a governmental entity or to a private entity, one is consenting and capitulating to the will of the very beast that seeks to destroy humanity at large. No person can rightfully argue from the left or the right that this current political economic system is not rife with fraud. It is. Up one side, down the other. During a recent prayer, it came to me to ask, is it merely a right to know that God is good and only good, or is it also, in fact, a responsibility? Yeah, I suggest that it's all our own duty and responsibility to learn about the nature and character of God, that He is only good. His name will be completely vindicated. He's not responsible for anything bad, whether organic or inorganic. Professed capitalists do not have a monopoly on the spirit of America, especially in light of the fact that we haven't had capitalism in America in some 55 years, since the assassination of JFK. Rather, we have had pseudo-capitalism, or what many refer to as crony capitalism. Only intellectually honest economic egalitarians can rightfully claim to represent the American spirit. Unequivocally speaking, coin clipping is super fraudulent. It is cleverly theft. It is clever theft. Modern day coin clipping is being accomplished through artificial cost of living inflation tax, which obviously debases your currency, which is coin clipping, making it worth less. Just as a coin is worth less after each clipping and will afford you less, so too your currency is clipped by artificially raising your cost of living tax. This is accomplished through colluding special interest groups, private and governmental, which act in concert, thus forming an effective, formidable, and diverse monopoly. Surreptitiously, the so-called government is now a special interest group with an interest in manipulating real estate price costs, values, quote, values euphemistically, because those employed make more in property tax revenue. This is a very immoral government working against the best interests of the public at large, the diametric opposite of what any good government is supposed to be doing. If I state that I wish you were loaded, regardless of who you are, and am I really so bad? Yet the idea that all human beings have an inherent God-given right to share in this planet's natural resources is held as a radical notion. Of course, we would all be loaded in such a free paradigm to understand that this earth belongs to everybody, not just some people. Due to recent minor increases in the minimum wage workers are being framed and fingered for raising prices or inflation. That's like blaming innocent people for not being able to run fast enough in deep sand that gets only deeper as those same accusers continue pouring out ever more sand to contend with.